It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. More SEC Media Days coverage from Atlanta this week as Kentucky coach Mark Stoops will be next to hit the podium in about half an hour. Billy Napier of Florida just wrapped up his moment at the podium for the first time as an SEC head coach. 3HL broadcasting live from Media Days presented by Brentwood Hearing. NFL vets starting to report to training camp this week. Raiders and Jaguars veterans are reporting today. Titans will start training camp early next week. Nashville Soccer Club announced this morning the extension of general manager Mike Jacobs through the 2026 season. NSC travels up the road to take on Cincinnati on Saturday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Following the birthday boy, Buck Rising. Buck, if you're getting in a car, driving out of the parking lot, we wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah, man, be safe out there, man. I know this is the end of the week for him, right?
It is. This is his Friday.
Ooh, Friday on a Wednesday. That's a nice, that's the way you cover yourself
is
right
he
there.
going anywhere, or is he just kind of taking a break before the season starts?
I think he's doing a little staycation. Yeah, I don't think he's heading anywhere.
Okay, yeah.
You guys ever staycated anywhere? Like go out to, I don't know, anywhere, nice hotel, spend a couple of days locally?
Oh, that's in-state.
Yeah, staycation.
Staycation.
You ever staycated before?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I never have.
This hopeless romantic over here, the hitman.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, man, I was looking at your Insta last night. You some rooftop restaurant? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when we do the staycation.
Okay. You guys hit all the spots.
I can't be hitting the road after the rooftop. Dinner, rooftop, the staycation.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I love a good off day at home.
Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. But, I get those on the weekend. I really take a debriefing every weekend. And okay, I'm going to try to stay as much away from sports, especially during this time. It's not a lot of, stuff going
those will
on.
be gone pretty soon.
Yeah. So it's just, okay, breathe. Don't have your mind wandering and going like Lucas's brain does all the time, man.
Yeah, please.
Lucas can't stop his brain from going.
I heard you say earlier today on the show, you guys were talking about gaming, and you said, I can't do it. I don't have the attention span for it.
No, I can't. Sports games are the only thing I ever played because it's simple, right? Like you play FIFA, you play a soccer game against someone else. You play Madden, you play a football game against someone else. But when it comes to like Warzone and all the Call of Duty games and Skyrim, I can never do it because there's too many tokens and objectives and bonuses.
Oh, really, man?
Can't.
I thought you would be the type to get addicted to something like that.
No, I don't have the
100%.
attention
If
span.
somebody said, is Lucas a big gamer? I would have said, I'll take whatever odds that he is.
Really?
Yes, I would have too.
No.
Because how quickly you think. So playing a game just buys right into all of that.
Yep.
What I loved about gaming was being able to sit in a room with someone and play a game against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like playing your friend, like in the same room, like hanging out together.
Oh, you don't like the
But yeah, everything now
Online
is
gaming.
online, first
don't
player.
like it.
I never, and people like watch other people play video games. And I have very close friends that do that, and I can't do it.
I asked my son one day, what are you watching on kids' YouTube? He's like, it's somebody playing, and he named some game. I said, you're literally watching a video of someone else playing a game. And I took his iPad for the rest of the day.
That is the new thing. You got to be careful, especially with boys. As they get older, you better watch out.
And Derek
man.
says, I've been playing Madden 22 the entire time you've been roasting it. I'm not roasting it at all. I mean, it's your life. I'm like you.
Well, that was Lucas roasting it.
I don't have the attention span for it either. And people always ask me all the time, like, do you play golf? I'm like, nope. Why not? And I said, well, I don't know. The idea of taking 2.5, 3 hours, I mean, I know it's outside and golf courses are beautiful. I don't want to do anything for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, what I can say, I wasn't a big gamer growing up naturally, and then they had all the Madden till I was actually in the league then. But one thing I can relate to more so is watching my son. He would play games, and I had to put a limit on him, kind of old school limit, and say, hey, when you finish your homework, maybe you can play during the week, because it became something that was just like routine every day. I said, but this is something that you're going to probably be most of the time doing on the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So because I wanted him to actually go outside, to be honest.
Wait,
If you have free time, go outside.
Yeah.
Because everybody's sitting on the couch. It becomes a whole new deal. And I wasn't buying into it, and I'm not. I'm just like, no, man, you need to move your body. You can't just sit here on the couch after you've been sitting here for an hour doing your homework, and all of a sudden now eat dinner, and now you want to go back and just sit down and play a game for hours. So let's leave that for, all right, man, it's more like a reward. You know you can play on the weekends, and guess what? I'm having too busy to do that on the weekend. We're going to be doing all these other little activities, and you're only going to get like an hour or two to do that. So, yeah, it just kind of changed. Everybody is all in on that, and it's like a deal. Now there's big-time money in there actually now, right, Lucas?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Like, Kenny Vaccaro is legitimately financially invested in, like, esports.
Yeah.
It's a huge industry.
I think.
You can go to college now on esports.
Bernard Pollard is a little bit in that, too, as well.
Yeah. No, you're right. You can get a scholarship.
Yeah.
Like ETSU, I think East Tennessee State has a fantastic esports program, like a dominant esports program.
Well, I got a 7-year-old son, so if there's gaming going on, it means he and I are outside playing games.
I was on the ultimate team. They took me off.
Oh, he's saying get you back in ultimate team.
Yeah. I had to look up. I didn't know. People always used to tell me I was rated 90, so I looked it up today since Lucas kind of put me to the test on that, and I did find that I was 90 in 01.
Would you be put out though if somebody's like, yeah, I just looked you up from 2001, you were you were at 79. Would you be like, oh, I got to talk to somebody?
Oh, well, I mean, if I was playing today, I don't think I would do that either. I'll be just like everything else. Oh, that's hogwash. Are they watching the games? It'll kind of be like, like anything else that you disagree with. But I wouldn't be going on social media probably. That's just kind of wasn't my style.
Oh, guys get mad.
Yeah.
Lobby against that.
Yeah, I probably been like, I probably should have been a couple points higher, but I would have been. I wouldn't have been a 79. Let's say if I was like an 82, and I was getting 90s, then I would be like, come on, man. At worst case scenario, I'm an 88. Yeah. So, but I wouldn't be getting over all this, all upset. Hey, man, guess what? I said, oh, okay. I was always about prove it. So I would probably say, okay, just another little notch, as small as that is, and show that I am definitely not an 82. So that's kind of how I would roll. How you
Just
like
had
that?
a Tommy in Lebanon tell us that Jalen Taylor, Cumberland's lead receiver last year, won a national title in esports.
Yeah, see, it's a big deal. I knew somebody, yeah. I figured somebody would be listening that was big. Or I thought somebody was going to call in and had a scholarship. That's what I was banking on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, this is big time now, man. I have no clue. I'm not watching. I got too many other things online, like just trying to keep up with Lucas and his Twitter handle and when he's posting our tweet of when we're coming on.
I'm doing it.
I can't keep it. No, you've done an
100.
exceptional job. Yep, you have. Yeah, so I can't even keep with all the moving parts, man.
SEC Media Days, a lot of moving parts continue. Sam Pittman there today. A lot of big deal made about he has a giant pig statue at his lake house. And everybody drives by on their boat, he said, and they say, woo pig suey to him. Do you want to be out in your yard at your lake house with your flip-flops on and your Speedo and have people yelling woo pig suey at you?
If I was the head coach of Arkansas?
You'd be all in.
Absolutely.
I'll say this.
I mean, most of them, let me give you this, they're great salesman of whatever brand or university that they're working for. And I think you have to be all in. And we don't know. Some fan may have actually given it to him, and he says, guess what? I'm not going to put it at my house, but guess what? I'm putting it in my vacation house.
Oh, it's
So
there's pictures of it. It's big.
Well, he explained it. He said it was a statue of a marlin that fell over, I think, in a storm or something, and the insurance company hooked him up that when they put it back, they made it a hog.
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, he's all in, man. He's probably the most down-to-earth, likable guy probably in the SEC. And I think it's because he had to work so hard to get to be a head coach.
Yep.
And he still has that personality of just a normal guy, O-line guy, fun-loving, huggy, hey, man. Then he just speaks the truth, matter-of-factly, and it's okay. I think he has a smooth way about him. Like, if Nick Saban said the truth about every player, then they were like, oh, man, Nick Saban's tough on his dudes. They already say that. But, Yeah, well, Sam Pittman. Just think when we heard him, what he said about, you know.
I got in
Burks.
my rabbit hole on Twitter and found his quotes about Burks last year. He goes, "Hey, he needs to stop hog hunting all the time and get in better shape."
Yeah. See that? See how he did that?
He said that a year ago. This
Is
week.
that's a leg swipe right there.
Yeah.
Well, people will look over it because they're like, oh, it's just a funny
Just
little
Sam,
shot.
right?
But
This
like,
is all
Oh, he
Sam.
was serious as a heart attack now.
maybe he had a point.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I hope you listen, Mr. Trayline. Yeah, man. That's what I said, man. He's kind of this easygoing way about him that it's really kind of unique, kind of different than the other coaches.
Lucas says we got a little bit of his straight talk from SEC Media Days. This is Sam Pittman.
April 22nd, we handed out bowl rings. Some people ask, well, why you hand out a bowl ring for Outback Bowl? Because I wanted to. And because it's something that nobody on our team had accomplished.
Yes.
And, you know, you can set goals, and once you reach one, that ain't the goal, that's one of them. And once you reach that goal, we're going to celebrate it, and then we're going to move on. That was the last time our team talked about last year.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If you had a goal and, hey, we're going to win a bowl game this year, everybody in it, we're in. Well, then they won a dang bowl game, and that's a good bowl. Okay, everybody's getting a ring. They got money to buy them. Nobody's going to not have go without because they bought bowl rings with their money.
No, I really appreciate that because it's like when you setting goals, you put that check mark in there. Up, we accomplished this, we got rewarded. Now let's see what the next goal is and can we reach higher, and do the check mark on that one too. So yeah, let's see the reward. And guess what? The guys will be so elated and they have something to show off, not only to their teammates and to their friends, but also to new recruits. You come here, guess what? We're going to another bowl next year. We're going to go to a bigger one. So you got to believe that and think that. And I think all the coaches buy into whatever they're telling their team. You know, I was listening to Smart today, and I was like, "What?" Someone said, well, "Really? We're not the hunted."
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you are. Oh, you must have then sold yourself to that, but yeah, you are. We don't hunt here. They hunt us.
Right.
Well, they gonna be getting you. He said something to that effect, and I was laughing. Then he was talking about NIL. So I just think he's genuinely, Pittman is just an honest guy and just a matter of fact. And I kind of like that because then it's not a yelling. It's not too mild-mannered. You know he's coming from a good place, and I think he shows love to the players, and I think they appreciate that. And you can feel that through when he's talking.
Man, he's got a good staff, too.
Yeah, always. Yeah. And I think his ego is not big enough where he's not listening to his staff and his players.
He talks about that
so.
with Barry Odom, as a former head coach, being able to lean on him. Odom was one of the best defensive play callers in the league, in the country last season. And then Kendall Briles comes back for the first time ever as a returning starter in his offense at quarterback.
Yeah, I knew he thought he was going to lose Odom, but Odom came back, man. He's probably sitting back saying, hey, man, I'm in a great situation here. Coach stays here, and if he doesn't, if he retires or whatever moves on, then I'm right here sitting in a great spot.
And he's thinking,
keep moving my family around.
Well, and the other thing he's thinking is, we may be second in the West this year. And guess what? I'll get an even better job offer.
Yep.
Oh, Uncle Dave will get my own job offer. I'll get my own program.
Or at worst case scenario, I'll get me a nice bump and just wait it out.
Hey, man, I lived in that state. They get all the resources in the state. I know I worked at another school. Everybody's pennies that they save up, they send them all to the Razorbacks. Everybody's money goes there. They have no problem with money.
The biggest ticket in town, man.
Oh, it's the biggest ticket, and it's the biggest ticket in the whole state. I mean, I went to the other school, but I'm not blind or stupid. They get everybody's money and everybody's support. They have so much money. They'll spend it. So just know, if there's something Sam Pittman goes, hey, man, I need this to compete, Walmart, Tyson,
Cowboys.
Well, so what is
Jones?
So what has he been commenting about the NIL? Have we heard him comment? I didn't hear him comment about the NIL. Did somebody ask him a question about it, or?
I listened to his whole main room podium presser, and I didn't hear anything notable, but we've gotten to the point where coaches are saying the same thing about uniformity across the board, right? The NIL is going to be a strength here, and it's kind of starting to get a little bit redundant.
Oh. Here's my, I don't, I know Buck has something, but we call it the ding dong. Should things change with SEC Media Day? This is what I was going to say yesterday, and we kind of went to the left. And what I'm talking about here, Lucas, is should they change how they're doing the Destin? And it was only, 2 months ago? Or
spring meeting.
And then
March.
the SEC Media Day. Should it be a bigger gap? Because I feel like we're asking somewhat similar questions. The only thing that's new is the UCLA USC deal. So I feel like we're kind of still asking the same things other than that. So I don't know if we should change like how far apart they are. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think the thing would just be just go have your spring meeting somewhere where just you go and you don't invite the press and treat it like that. And then everybody gets everything at SEC Media Days. But they turn the spring meeting into a media event.
Right.
And
right.
like you said, one says spring and one says fall. They ain't that far apart.
Right.
Let's be honest.
2 months.
I mean, it's not that far apart. You just have to say, like, all the coaches are going to come to SEC headquarters, and we're just going to have our meetings and the ADs, and the media don't come. This is just a meeting.
Well, I mean, the media being there does kind of still blow the SEC.
It does
out the water.
It absolutely does, and I think they want that.
And I think that's why they do it. But man, it's a little close for me.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure the SEC fans are not like, nah, this is not enough.
No, they want more. Have another meeting in between. Have the midsummer meeting and send the press to that too. John Brice, he covers college football for Football Scoop. There's a lot to get to with him. Notre Dame and ACC and expansion, and the governor of California is mad, and there's a bunch going on. He's covering it all, and we got John Brice next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone, rolling through a Wednesday.
You're rolling, headed for the highway. This is not that song. I know it's not, but that's how I feel right now. That's how I feel. The way we was going during the break, man, I don't think we stopped talking to each other.
I think people love mashup songs. Blaine knows I love to combine words. There are people who love to combine songs.
Oh, is it? It's people like that?
Hey, you need to find like Mean Machine by Van Halen and the Jackson 5 or Staying Alive in Black, which is the Bee Gees and AC/DC, and play one of those for Blaine. It's all on YouTube. But you just did a mashup of two songs.
Did I?
You did.
Man, you are teaching me well. You are teaching me well how to do the mixtures of names and words and man, you're
you can't spell mixture without Mick.
You can't believe you done it yourself. You about to go, you dropping the mic.
John Brice joins us now. I hate to pull you into this, Brice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man, that's a rough introduction with those dad jokes.
Oh man, dang, see how you do us, man. Dang,
come on, man. Those aren't dad jokes. That's top level radio talk, Brice. Get it straight, man.
All right.
All right. At John D. Brice 1 on Twitter, Football Scoop, making all the magic happen. Hey, on a serious note, before we get anything started, I never got to meet your dad. I know he was a fantastic person. I know so many people who just knew him and loved him. And I remember him getting featured in the game and Dawn helping that at the Tennessee-Kentucky game. And I know he passed. And just know we're thinking about you. And man, we love you. And just sorry that he passed. He just seemed like the best guy.
Well, you're very kind, and obviously it's been tough. He passed July 8th, and we buried him last Tuesday. I gave the eulogy on last Monday night, so it has been tough, but I have felt everyone's love and prayers, and since you brought it up, I do publicly want to thank Don Davenport and the SEC Network crew again. My mom, even as we were preparing for the funeral, talked about how much my dad loved sharing that segment with his oncology team there at Vanderbilt, as well as his medical staff in the Tri-Cities. And so your words and thoughts and prayers genuinely are felt by my family, so I appreciate you.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, just another thing, college football is special to so many people, and that you can tie it into something like that. It just shows – well, it shows how special it is to people, but it also shows it's a family, it's a community, and the people mean something to each other who are part of that community. And I know he meant a lot to a lot of people. So I didn't want to have you on and not mention him. All right, switching gears. Let's start with this. Been a lot of NIL talk at all of these media days, certainly at the SEC Media Days and other places. And it seems like everybody wants guardrails, Brice, but it doesn't seem like anybody's standing up and saying, and I'm going to make it happen, or this is what we should do. Everybody just kind of keeps saying the same things, that it's great and all, but it's got to have some guardrails and some direction.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, guys, it's what we've visited about before. It's what I point blank said on your show before. Everybody wants these guardrails. Nobody wants to present them or try to enact them or execute them because of two factors. Number one, they're worried about it being used against them in recruiting. And number two, lawsuits. And those are probably interchangeable, or they're 1A and 1AA, or however you want to put it. Those are the two overriding factors. Those are the only reasons we don't already have guardrails on NIL, because everybody's scared of those two components, and the laws are different everywhere. We know Governor Lee signed into law earlier this spring, in April, I believe, groundbreaking legislation that allows the state of Tennessee and obviously the schools therein to approach name, image, likeness endorsement deals very differently than some other bordering states that don't have those same sort of freedoms. And Governor Lee's law allows, I think, schools to be more hands-on and more directly involved. I think that's what everybody wants it to move to. I don't think college coaches need additional things to worry about. But you saw the comments from Lane Kiffin this week at SEC Media Days, and it's what I'd written months ago from talking with multiple Power 5 player personnel directors, and everybody wants to know, who's determining your roster? if a booster wants to go out and so very desperately give an $8 million deal to a quarterback and have him come in and be the new face of the program for the future, how much pressure is there to play that guy? What if he doesn't develop? Who's making the calls? And again, I can't stress enough, and there's going to be a national director of player personnel and recruiting symposium there in Nashville in a couple of weeks, and I'm scheduled to be down for that. But that's one of the major topics. Those people who are comprising the college rosters, who work hand in hand with these college coaches, they're all worried about that element of NIL. And then if those people are working directly with the collectives on the NIL front, then that's obviously breaking the rules. And so, again, it's a mess. It's I think right now it's a bigger issue in college athletics than the realignment, even though that's the other major direction we're heading. But, again, nobody wants to be the one to stand up and do something about it for those two reasons.
Brice, added to that, though, I wanted to get your opinion, and I only thought about this when I hear Nick Saban talk, and that is, do you really think the coaches, if they had to give truth serum, that they really like the NIL the way it's structured now?
No, I don't think they like the way it's structured now. That's what I'm saying. Like, I do think.
Like, I don't think they like NIL at all, though. I don't even know if it was structured. You think it'd be okay?
I disagree with them not liking it at all. I literally have not had a single conversation with the coach, and I talked to a Power 5 coach 30 minutes ago, an offensive coordinator, right before I did your show, and we talked about NIL, and he loves it, but he does not love the lack of guardrails on it. All these people that I know want these guys, gals, whomever, to make as much money as they can once they get to a school and have a brand. But all the nasty stuff and all the stuff we just touched on in terms of what kind of pressure it places on coaches and all the coaches and the developmental people and everything else, when these giant deals are handed out to get a kid to come play somewhere, there's already that much inherent pressure. And coaches, as we know, especially in the SEC, have more pressure than ever before to win. That's only going to get worse as we see these realignments, as we see the TV money going up and up and up exponentially, even more so, and we see the playoffs expanding, and there's even more pressure to try and crack into that. So the pressure's not going away. It's only getting worse. This is another component of pressure because of the booster influence, because of the money that's being thrown around, that coaches really don't like that element of it. But no, the coaches I've talked to, they want their kids to be able to go help a car dealership in town and they get a free car, or they go there for an afternoon and they make $5,000 to sign autographs for 2 hours or whatever. But coaches I talk to are incredibly uncomfortable with these 6, 7, and potentially even 8-figure deals that are unfolding out there just to get a kid to come play somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, then to follow that up, and I think some coaches are being disingenuous. I don't know if they really – I think they think it's going to be a problem. That's me personally. So what is Nick Saban then talking about when he says we need to get competitive balance? What is he referring to? I mean, what do you mean there is no competitive balance? They are – I mean, I don't understand what he means when he says that.
Well, it's the politically correct, it's the polite way of saying we need – guidelines, guardrails, a salary cap, as Lane Kiffin called it. That's what they're talking about, competitive balance. They want to know, okay, every school is going to agree not to give out these deals until a player truly arrives, or until a player has earned something based off his or her success at the collegiate level. Or they're going to say, okay, every school can use $2 million of its recruiting budget to sign these NIL deals every year. And if you go over that, then your respective conference is going to impose penalties or whatever. When he talks about competitive balance, it's a clever way of saying they want uniform rules. That's all it is. That's completely all it is. And that's what.
Right. And where are they going to get that, though? Where are they going to get that? And then how long is that process going to take?
Commissioner John Brice.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's that coming from?
No, they're not going to get it anytime soon. That's why we are where we are with Nick Saban saying Jimbo Fisher bought his entire class, and Jimbo Fisher firing back and saying he's a horrible person or whatever. And then you've got Lane Kiffin just being completely candid and saying we need a salary cap. And look, of all the things that have been said this week, and there have been interesting comments from Greg Sankey, from Jim Phillips, whomever, these coaches, Lane Kiffin has said it best because, number one, he said, we need a salary cap if this is the way it's going to be. And then number two, he said, hey, you want to know who's best in the NIL marketplace right now? It's the schools with the best boosters. And so God bless Lane Kiffin for being so transparent and being an absolute gold mine for all of us reporters out here who hang on his comments, because so many coaches don't want to say the truth. So many coaches will hide under the guise of quote-unquote competitive balance when everyone knows exactly what Lane Kiffin said is exactly what's the truth. They want to know everybody has access to X number of dollars to spend, or that nobody's going to spend until a guy gets there. That's the bottom line. They want uniformity. They want it to be based on a guy making a choice and having a potential to earn once he gets to a school. But until then, they still want the other factors to be more prevalent. And right now, those factors are becoming less and less prevalent, because of the money for NIL.
John Brice with Football Scoop.
So as of right now, I guess I almost said ACDC, ACC Media Days.
You was combining again.
I know, I'm combining words again. ACC Media Days going on, and we're hearing about gated communities and all kinds of stuff. But it looks like Notre Dame is content, Brice, to just continue to have their acreage outside of town, living on their own space.
Yeah, they are, and I appreciate the ACDC reference, or Akadaka, as it's known.
Yes.
Notre Dame is completely content. And again, Notre Dame is fine being content because everything is still shaking out. Nothing is really going to matter in terms of changing dynamics until 24 or 25, when some of these new alignments or these new conference affiliations start to actually take place on the playing fields. And the other thing is, they're working towards expanding the playoff. And as we've said, it's going to completely be about the haves and the have-nots. I know Nick Saban said that and said, look, the system probably favors us right now because we're a have. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be even more pronounced if things aren't, reined in some components. But it's not going to matter conference affiliation. If there's 16 SEC teams, 16 Big Ten teams, and there's 20 other teams floating around out there that are still major players, none of your conference affiliation is going to matter because it's going to be even more about the NFL model. Yes, you might get a bye for the playoffs, or you might be able to win your conference championship and secure a bye, but there's going to be inevitably more teams in the playoffs, and all that's going to matter is, are you positioned for the playoffs? Conference championships are going to mean less than ever before when this finishes shaking out.
Man, John Brice, our guest from Football Scoop at John D. Brice 1, breaking it down.
Well, for the health of, I guess, college football, if you want to theoretically say that, is it better for them to keep a Big 3 if it eventually gets to that, or it doesn't matter and the Big 2 is the route to go?
I think that more is better if it ends up being 3 super conferences, or, 3 16-team conferences, or 3 20-team conferences, whatever it is. I think the larger your pool, the better off it is for the greater number of student athletes, the greater number of coaches, and really importantly here, from my viewpoint, the greater number of fans. And I think that we're drifting towards a college football that alienates so much larger portions of its rabid fan bases across the country, because it's going to be even more divided between the haves and the have-nots than ever before. We finally saw Cincinnati earn its way into the playoffs last year, the first group of 5 team to make the playoffs. This new system, if it continues to be this class segregation, is going to make it impossible for a Cincinnati or a Boise or whomever. Even though Cincinnati's going to the Big 12, still some of those programs of that ilk are going to have a much more difficult time if you've got 2 super conferences with 32 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC, and you're maybe expanding your playoffs to 8 teams. And you heard Greg Sankey say it this week, like, we don't care about conference championships moving forward that much because it's going to be about getting the best teams in the playoffs. And I thought that was a pretty clear signal. I thought it was pretty interesting to hear Greg Sankey talk about the need for reining in NIL when he just got a contract extension from the SEC and makes $3 or $4 million a year.
Well, will it matter in the ACC if they still have divisions or not?
The ACC, first and foremost, Blaine, has to just assure itself that it can stay alive. And I have specifically talked to coaches in that league from 3 different institutions who are incredibly worried. Make that 4 different institutions who are incredibly worried about the future of that conference. And I've had multiple coaches from that league tell me and multiple other college coaches tell me it's no secret Clemson would have a great interest in joining the SEC if the time was right. There are other programs that are looking to maneuver themselves to potentially leave the ACC. And another thing to consider is that I had an ACC coach tell me, ACC guy who's been a former head coach tell me that his understanding is if enough teams leave the ACC, it dissolves their penalty for breaking the
grant of rights.
Ooh.
Grant of rights. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you for finding the words there for me. I was stumbling. But, yes, my understanding from talking to this ACC coach about 2.5 weeks ago is that all those penalties that ACC schools would have to pay, ever how many millions of dollars it is, if 8 schools or more leave the ACC, my understanding is that penalty dissolves.
Yeah, man, Lucas Panzica was all over that. I guess to bring more panic, the governor of California was caught off guard with UCLA and USC, bolting here in the next couple of years. Is there anything that he can actually do to stop them?
Well, he can't do anything to stop USC. USC is a private school. That's why it's so hard to learn even exactly what Lincoln Riley is making. That's why there were so many outlandish figures thrown around about what Lincoln Riley was going to be making. So Gavin Newsom has absolutely no true control or influence over USC. It can operate with great autonomy. But UCLA, I think Gavin Newsom can certainly make that system's life very difficult. Obviously, with him being over the Board of Regents for the entire UC system, they've got 10 major universities throughout the state of California. He can absolutely stick pressure on them in terms of funding, in terms of potential capital projects, in terms of any number of things. And so, Gavin Newsom doesn't do a great job of following the rules himself plenty of times, whether it's eating at the French Laundry in Napa Valley or vacationing in Montana recently. But he's not wrong on this situation in that as the governor of California and the head of the Board of Regents for that school system, he probably should have known about it in advance.
One last thing. This is just kind of, hypothetical. But the Big West said that some schools called them. I want to say it was 6 schools. It might have been more than that. Who do you think those schools were? Was it from the Pac-12?
I would think so. I think you've got a lot of Pac-12 schools, much like ACC schools right now. I mean, those are the 2 conferences in the worst position. Those are the 2 conferences that are absolutely teetering on the brink, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people that I've spoken with. So, yeah, everybody is jostling. This talk about how it's settled down for now, I don't buy that because of what we've talked about numerous times, and that is last summer they all came out of those college playoff meetings singing by the campfire about how they were going to expand to 12 playoff teams, and all these Power Fives were happy. And 2 weeks later, Greg Sankey was welcoming in Texas and Oklahoma from the Big 12, and the Big 12 was facing extinction at that time. So I don't buy the words beyond the day of the week because everything can change.
No doubt. Good stuff.
Man, fantastic stuff as always, buddy. Thank you for taking the time during a very busy week, John. We appreciate you.
Love you guys. Appreciate you very much. Have a great one.
Yes, sir.
JB.
At John D. Brice, One Football Scoop. Great story about the jilted governor of California that John wrote. You can check that out and more at Football Scoop. All right, when we come back, I've been making some notes. All these schools that are like on the fringe, or what if these guys get left out? I can tell you there's one school that literally has the guns ablazing. They are doing everything they can to not go quietly into that good night of being relegated. I got amazing numbers for you next.
Bam. Yeah, this is not kind of this is my kind of music right here. The mix a lot right here. Yeah, this is what goes on with my brain too. Exactly. I'll go from one song to the next.
Listen to it at the same time.
Yeah.
Have you not heard this?
No, this is fantastic.
I've seen you Staying in Black or Staying Alive in Black.
Uh-oh.
I'll send you another one, too, that's really good.
Oh man, I
We'll
like
use
this
it.
so much. I think, man, we should start the show off with this thing.
Pretty good.
That's not a bad idea.
Ooh, I like it. For the new season, we gonna make the new season. We about to start this thing off crunk. Yes, I like it. Staying alive. Staying alive.
We wouldn't lose anything.
I feel bad for the stream chat. It's like, what in the world's going on?
Oh man,
The Bee Gees and AC/DC.
banger.
Oh, banger says Lonzo. I'm telling you.
Sign a
There's
groove.
video that goes to this. It's all on YouTube. The magic happens there. No, man, this is taking my focus. This is so
Yeah, we good. Yeah,
All
cut.
right,
Yeah.
So there's all these talk. The commissioner of the ACC keeps talking about gated communities and are we in one or not? And yes, we're in one. And Nick Saban's talking about haves and have-nots. And he goes, I mean, we're a have. All right, we have. So he made it very clear. I mean, there are haves and have-nots. They are not a have-not. They are a have. We know that, Nikki.
Tell us something we don't know.
Vandy Chris says he can't hear Mickey.
Fixed it.
All right, Mickey is back. Vandy Chris, thank you for the love. Thank you,
All
Lonzo.
he missed was about the gate.
It's good
the
now.
gate.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything.
That you grew up in a gated community.
No, I did not. I grew up in a house
You had a big old gate around your whole field.
Well, there was a lot of gates around
wine.
where we kept our
And
cows. Yeah, my cows lived in a gated community.
Not the gates Jim Phillips is talking
And there
about.
was not the same gates. There were not. And there were a lot of electric fences, and I can tell you, do not do anything around those that you will regret.
I was in a gated community as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Baltimore Estates, right?
Baltimore
Estates.
Terrace.
Oh, was it Terrace or Estates?
It was not gates either one of them. I wish it was.
All these talk about the schools get left behind. Well, people are like, naming like fringe Big 12 schools and school. Okay. Texas Tech is like, who's not going down without a fight? Texas Tech. Listen to this. This week, Texas Tech making moves.
Oh, man.
So they announced in the midst of all of this,
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
in the most uncertainty, here we are. They announced a $200 million end zone and football training facility. They announced it this week. Kirby Hocutt, who's the AD, said this shows the commitment to strengthening the football program. If you wonder what makes all this happen, it's your football program. He said, and I quote, football is the element that we have got to continue to raise to the level of all of our other sports, and this announcement tonight is a big piece of that. When they finish the addition, Texas Tech University will create the largest football facility in the United States.
Oh, I did not see that. What do you mean? What do you mean? Facility? Is you talking about the stadium? Or?
Everything put together will make it the largest in the United States. Because I had questions too. And they're building things together. So it all is like one contiguous thing. So it's going to be the biggest football facility. Texas Tech. So when somebody asks you, your trivia night at the bar, and it's like, who has the largest football facility in the United States? And it'll be like, ding, Alabama, ding, Clemson, ding, Ohio State, Texas Tech. Take Texas Tech.
Oh, man, you mixed three voices there.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
But
I thought they were
sound
giving
effects.
NIL deals to other players.
That's the next thing.
Yep.
Their collective
Okay.
has promised 100 players, so that's 85 scholarship players and 15 of their preferred walk-ons, a $25,000 salary every year. And they'll make appearances or whatever they do to earn that money. Lonzo says oil money. Absolutely.
That's why they want the biggest.
Vandy Chris says peeing on electric fence is a rite of passage for every American boy in America. Yeah. And Vandy Chris says, come on, if you're going to talk about that, let's talk about Vandy and their three. Vandy Chris, here's the reason why I did miss Vandy. They're in the SEC. Their seat at the table is already there. I'm talking about the schools that don't have a guaranteed seat at a power confirmed table. So absolutely, we talked a lot about Vandy when they made this commitment, but don't be in such a hurry to jump on me here. I'm talking about schools that are maybe being thrown in the have-not pile who are saying, hold up. Texas Tech, we're not going to be a have-not. $200 million, biggest football facility in America. And if you're one of our top 100 players, then how does $25K grab you? Just right off the top.
Not bad.
That's a couple of strong statements to come out in a week by a school who, because we're talking like, okay,
and they're in the Big 12.
who's going to last here and who's going to stay here? And the Big 12 actually seems to have, as John Brice said earlier, the ACC and the Pac-12 are the conferences that appear to be in the most trouble. He didn't even mention the Big 12, which last year everybody said was in the most trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. And it's because schools like Texas Tech are like, hey, man, we're just going to go ask every oil man for $1 million here and spend a couple $100 million. Oh, and by the way, then we're going to guarantee everybody a salary top 100.
Ooh, this is what we should do. You just made me think of a thing to do maybe one day, or even today, is of the schools outside of the top two conferences,
Yep.
Big Ten, SEC, mix Pac-12, ACC, and Big 12. What schools would you want 16 of them would you want of those schools?
If you made a Power 16 of the other three conferences?
Yes.
Ooh. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The final SEC head coach to hit the podium is done for the day. It was Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops. You can hear 3HL broadcasting live from SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta today from 3 to 6. NFL veterans starting to report to training camp this week. The Raiders and Jaguars vets report today. Titans begin training camp early next week. Nashville Soccer Club announced the extension of general manager Mike Jacobs earlier this morning. Jacobs' contract will run through 2026. NSC will travel to Cincinnati on Saturday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the show on Wednesday, as I like to call it, the nexus of the sports talk universe.
Oh, you finally got that.
I did.
I was waiting.
It's the middle. It's the middle of the week show.
Yeah,
so here we are.
It sounds like the muck.
The gelatinous muck. That's
is that in the middle of something?
It's in the middle of pie, gelatinous muck or cobbler. Sometimes Blaine likes for me to establish what gelatinous muck is. So, like, here we go. Start the 2 o'clock.
What we're about
hour.
to do with these conferences?
We're about to make some gelatinous muck here. So, like, if Lucas was like, hey, man, come over to the house and I'm going to make dinner for you and Blaine. And I'm like, great. And we eat our dinner. And he's a very international cuisine cook. I see his beautiful Instagram photos. And I'm always jealous because it always looks fantastic what he's making. But if Lucas was like, I made this delicious cherry pie for you guys for dessert, I can just tell you. The cherries, which are just like bugs floating around in there, cooked fruit.
Ugh.
I'm going to take them and just slide them to the side ever so gently. And I'm going to eat the crust, which I'm a big crust guy. And then just the red stuff that the cherries live inside, the gelatinous muck.
You know what? You should have made that on your farm with the cows and the grapes.
Ain't nothing natural about that stuff.
I think you could have made some natural one.
That doesn't come from any farm that I've ever. There's no muck farm.
Well, we about to muck up this big three. And Lucas, we must need your help, because we're old and decrepit.
You're in luck, by the way. I don't bake, so.
Okay. Yuppie Mullets says via the Zone TV chat, which you can respond to at any time and always watch. Director of Content Blaine Bishop bringing the heat for this next topic.
Oh, man.
So here's what we're doing.
We're stuck.
in light of SEC and ACC Media Days, and I think the Southland Conference Media Days going on right now and everything else, there's been all this talk about haves and have-nots. So Blaine said, well, here's what we need to figure out. Let's just take 16 teams from the other 3 conferences and make the other mega conference.
Yeah, make the third big super conference.
The third big super conference.
From the ACC,
and so,
Big 12, and the rest of the Pac-12.
That's it. And I said, oh, I like this. So maybe we pick 5 from each one. And I go, but who's 16? A wild card? He said, the wild card is Notre Dame. Yeah. That's number 16.
Yeah.
So 5 from each conference. So we've spent feverishly working in the commercial break. So how would you do this? Who gets left out? The remnants of the Pac-12, whoever's in the Big 12 now, and the ACC, and Notre Dame is 16. So we need 5 from each of the ACC, Pac-12, and Big 12. That's what we need.
And it could vary, depending on the conference. So we started with the ACC, so naturally we said Clemson, the U, FSU, and we said North Carolina. And then I said Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
I like those 5 there. And then he's like, well, what you going to do with Duke? And then Mickey had a great idea for Duke. And what was it, Mickey?
Duke, welcome to the Big East.
What about Virginia? Flagship.
Welcome to the Big East.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
Football program?
I don't know.
I know it could help the ratings as far as on the academic side, because I know there's rumors that the SEC likes Virginia as well as North Carolina.
They love themselves a flagship.
Mm-hmm. So but when we're just talking, I'm just thinking about football off the cuff. I don't see it. I don't see it here. So I don't know what's your input. You want Virginia in here, one of the 5, or Virginia Tech or Duke, or who do you want?
Well, if you're thinking strictly football.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's all we're thinking, Luke.
That's tough. Between Virginia and UNC, it's a total toss-up for me. If you're only talking about football, like if academics
that's
and
all we care
basketball is
about.
not even in the conversation.
Books, schmooks, football, Lucas. Pay attention, man.
Oh man,
Is Virginia and North Carolina? You're debating?
I'm debating between Virginia and North Carolina.
Oh man,
You can't do it. John Glennon's Virginia team, they just picked the worst time in history to be bad at football, Lucas.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're out.
I'm putting Duke in the Big East. So if you're from Duke, you hate me right now.
So
Duke
Wake
basketball in the
Forest.
Big East, though? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that was a
Think
great
about
idea.
it. Listen to me. Be open-minded.
He can't do it. Remember, he doesn't even play Call of Duty.
Well, people think this pick is a lot of duty, but I'm telling you.
I like your idea. I'm with you because of the basketball
Oh,
program.
gosh, that would be
And
fantastic.
guess what? Virginia has always had a solid basketball program too. So
They-
I'm going.
Welcome to the Big East.
No,
Fair
even
enough.
though North Carolina's a little more balanced, but naturally they have a great basketball program too. So now we're going to the Pac-12. Those
Yep.
are our five there: Clemson, the U, FSU, UNC, and Virginia Tech. We're gonna see where we go from there. We may
Okay.
mix and change after we get a list together. All right, for
I'm okay
the
with that.
Pac-12, I started off and I got stuck: Oregon, Washington, and Utah.
Boom, bang, bing.
Arizona.
We were debating
That
Arizona and Arizona State, where Arizona is a brand in basketball for sure now, but in football, not as much as they used to be. I mean, they were man, when the Teddy Bruschi days, ooh, they were bad. What they call them, the Desert Swarm or something?
Desert Swarm.
Oh, they were bad, Lucas.
They got a little bit of history down in Arizona.
They do.
Gronk, Nick Foles.
Do you have to keep them and Arizona State together? So because Oregon, Washington, and Utah seem like the no-brainers.
Shoo-ins.
Utah picked a great time to be great at football. Fighting Kevin Dyson's.
And-
Fantastic move by those guys.
And
be
picked
great.
a great time for the rest of the Pac-12 to suck at football too.
Sure
Yes.
did.
So who do you think? So you going Arizona?
Arizona and Arizona State. Look.
Arizona, hell, both.
Number one, those student bodies are massive.
Well, there's some student bodies that. I'm sorry, wait, what?
Talk about-
There's
talk
some
about
student
Rob-
bodies that you could actually see their body.
Right. He's talking about Rob Gronkowski.
Is it hot in here?
Stanford's getting left in the dust for me.
Welcome to the Big West. I have plans for everybody.
Oh, they're going to
Welcome.
the Big West.
We're,
Oh,
we're
okay.
sending people to the Big East and the Big West.
Okay, so
They're
you
gonna get
put
bigger.
Arizona State and Arizona in it. Okay, okay.
I left out Cal, left out Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
They'll always have that game of the trombone player got
They're going to
squashed.
end up in the Big West. Okay, so now we're left with the Big 12. So who out of the Big 12? And you got them up there.
The large 12.
Oh, man, you got Kansas, Baylor, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, BYU.
Oh man,
Ooh,
that's
uh-oh.
tough to take 5 from that. Or no,
Oh, yeah, you're saying
five.
the new,
We
you're
only
saying
get-
the new teams
We only
too.
get 5. Yeah, I'm adding them because, I mean, just where are you going?
You have to keep Baylor, the preseason pick, to win the Big 12 for the first time ever.
Oh,
this
you're
year.
saying Dave Aranda picked
And
the best
they
time
got a
to
good
be-
basketball program, too. So, okay,
Oh,
Baylor.
okay.
I go with the
Okay.
Baylor. I go
Whoa,
with Baylor.
look at that,
I like
Baylor.
that, Lucas.
OK State, Texas Tech.
You want OK State?
I think you have to.
OK State.
Okay, State.
I want the Pokes.
Okay.
T. Boone Pickens.
Okay.
T-Boone.
You want that money.
T-Boone. All right, so Baylor and Okie State.
Well, yeah.
And Notre Dame is going to be the 16th team in this mythical
Yeah,
super
but we
conference.
still got who you got after you said OK State. Then who'd you say?
Baylor and OK State. That's it. That's
Yeah.
as far as we are. Let me ask you, boys.
Oh man.
West Virginia, where you put them in all this mix? They pack a stadium. Mountaineers.
K State,
No.
TCU.
K-State, sorry. We're going to put you in the Sunbelt.
Between West Virginia, I'm leaving TCU in. And between West Virginia and Cincinnati, I'm stuck.
Oh, so you want TCU in?
I think I do.
So this is the only private school that's in?
Remember, Texas Tech, gentlemen, has the largest football
Oh, you gotta-
facility in
yeah, no, I've got
America
Texas
now.
Tech in mind. Gotta have Texas Tech.
Did they just buy their way into this?
They did.
Did they?
So Texas Tech is in.
Texas Tech is trying to keep up.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Texas Tech.
Are they in our Super 16 here?
West Virginia has some of the history. They have the culture, no question. They have the fan base. But Cincinnati's got the pedigree in recent college football.
Yeah, they're just so new. And that's everybody's Arkansas State and Ball State's and everybody's dream is to be that school that crashes the party.
Well, you guys are going that direction. I'm going UCF. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
Terry
like it.
Mahadra get to you? See, been texting you.
I like their football program. They always in the hunt. They got a good football program.
No,
But now
they
the
do.
basketball now. So
No, their basketball is
it's
pretty good
just
this
solid,
year.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Johnny
It's just-
Dawkins is the coach.
I just think they will find a way to continue to compete. I believe in what they got going.
Gus
They've been
Bus.
consistent and now they got Gus.
And I don't know if he'll leave. I think this would be his. I think he's going to
Okay,
stick
so I
around
like
there.
Baylor, Oklahoma State, and UCF. Yeah, I don't know if we only got 2 more spots.
Texas Tech.
Texas, are we sold on
Did they
Texas
buy
Tech?
their way into this deal?
Yes.
But did my last segment sell you guys
They
on
bought
Texas
their
Tech?
way into this conversation.
Did I interest you gentlemen in Texas Tech
So
stock?
it's only 1 spot left. We got Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State. I haven't put TCU down.
So do we have West Virginia, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech? Is that how we're landing?
TCU. If he
TCU.
He
Okay.
said if we go TCU, then that's it.
Okay,
Because
so-
Notre Dame is 16.
So Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, and West Virginia. Is that how we're shaking this
No,
out?
West Virginia's out. That's
West-
all you got. That's 5. UCF.
Oh, UCF.
West Virginia to the Big East.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Big East. It just continues to get bigger.
Right. So we have Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, UCF, and TCU.
There you
And
go.
then Notre Dame is number 16.
All right.
So now read off all of those and sound like if that sounds like a pretty good conference.
Here is your third super conference. Notre Dame will commit to this conference. And this, again, we're just having fun.
Mhm.
Notre Dame. Then we go ACC. Well, we got to name it. What are we going to name this, Lucas?
The Big 3. No, I don't know. I don't know. Lucas probably real creative with
The
that.
Big America.
So you're saying, what are we going to name this third super conference?
Yes.
Oh, man.
All right.
So-
You think while I read the names?
Yeah, we'll think.
Clemson, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, Baylor, Okie State, Texas Tech, TCU, Central Florida, and Notre Dame right in the middle, coast to coast, with Notre Dame right there in the middle of America.
I loved what you had the other week with the Big Pack.
The
The
Big,
Big
Pack.
Pack.
Big Pack.
The Big Pack.
Is
And
that
pack 2 C's to signify the ACC. champ.
What'd he say?
The Big Pack with 2 C's
Oh,
to rip
to
off the
signify
ACC.
Okay, we'll go Big Pack.
I think we've done it.
Big Pack.
The Big Pack.
So we need to put this. Anyone else have any? Oh, so we didn't get Cincinnati in there.
Oh, Vandy Chris, Cincinnati UCF, they haven't earned a seat at the table if Boise State doesn't have one.
Oh.
You'd have to go outside of the Big Pack to pull in Boise State because they're not there already. I don't know if Boise State has the budget. They don't. I mean, if you don't have the budget, then you don't have the budget. And that's no slight at Boise State because I went to a school that doesn't have the budget. But if you had the budget,
I don't know. I feel like Cincinnati should be in there.
Big American, says nephew Selly. And that was my
Big American.
Big
Kyle.
American was my other one. Big Pack with 2 C's. I mean, that could be the working title for sure.
Pack. Ooh, Big American. I like that.
Let's get to Big Top with 2 P's. Blake Toppmeyer set to join us next. He covers the East. He covers the SEC for USA Today. We got lots to get to with Media Days rolling on. The Big Top next.
Who is this guy?
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Wednesday. SEC Media Days rolls on. Billy Napier at the podium right now. It's earlier today, says Lucas Penzica. They're done for the day, says Lucas Penzica. So he was at the podium earlier. Blake Toppmeyer is at our podium now. He joins us at B. Toppmeyer on Twitter, SEC columnist for the USA Today. Blake, let's start with this. Greg Sankey spoke earlier this week. There were several things I took away from him, including him basically saying, I don't want little guys making decisions for the big guys anymore. That was one of my biggest takeaways. I'm curious, when you heard the commissioner speak, what were your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, realignment and the future of the college football playoff, jumped out immediately. I think, if you listen to what Greg Sankey said about realignment, he says the SEC is confident at 16 teams. It's in no panic to react to UCLA and USC. He said, he could see the conference staying at 16, but he also didn't close the door on future expansion. And it sounds like if he feels like there's a need and an opportunity for the SEC to act that makes sense, then it will do so, but it's not going to get bigger just to get bigger. It's not going to add teams just because another conference is adding teams, and it's not going to add teams that it doesn't think provides value. I believe Sankey when he says that. I think, the SEC has been methodical and calculated all along in its expansion attempts. It's gone into neighboring terrain. I think particularly in the case of Texas A&M, Texas and Oklahoma, it's added schools that provide value, and I just don't see it willy-nilly looking to stockpile teams. I think that's true. In regards to the playoff, it seems like Sankey thought the 12-team playoff proposal that got rejected this winter was the SEC's big compromise. As we know, Sankey and the SEC prefer a playoff model that has no spots reserved for conference champions and is filled strictly through the at-large bid process. But it thought it was compromising with that 12-team playoff proposal that would have reserved 6 spots for automatic qualifiers. But that got voted down by the Alliance, and to me it sounds like Greg Sankey's not really interested in any more compromises going forward here.
Do you think Sankey's possible expansion tune would change if, let's say, half the ACC membership or 8 schools or whatever it takes to leave, to dissolve the thing? How quickly do you think he would change if somebody like Clemson became imminently available?
I think if they were available, that could change his tune. We actually heard Sankey say bright and early on Monday morning on the SEC network that the SEC is not in the middle of getting in grant of rights battles.
Right.
And he didn't name the ACC in particular, but we all know who he's talking about. He's talking about the ACC there and its grant of rights deal that runs through 2036. Now, what he didn't say was, well, we'll wait till 26 and we'll come back then. You got the feeling that if that grant of rights issue wasn't there, then as you said, maybe the SEC would be interested. But I think he sees that as, that's those teams or schools' job to resolve that issue if they feel like it needs to be resolved. That's their deal. And if they can find a way to wriggle their way out of that, or if they are willing to stomach that hefty financial penalty and want to maneuver, then you get the sense that, the SEC would be interested in taking those phone calls. But I think by him saying he doesn't want to get in the middle of that, again, to me, it wasn't saying he's closing the door on members of the ACC, but it's like, get your affairs in order first, figure out how you're going to get out of this grant of rights situation. And then once you got that, it's like once you've gotten your divorce, then we can date. But take care of that matter first.
Blake Toppmeyer, talking dating, divorcing in the SEC right here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Blake, I guess, did any quotes so far by any coach thus far at the SEC Media Days kind of catch your ear and think, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting? Any coaches thus far say anything?
Well, I mean, when Clark Lee says that Vanderbilt's going to be the best program in the country, how about that, right? Like, if someone else would have said that would have been the lead story on on all the networks. If Lane Kiffin would have said, Ole Miss is going to be the best program in the country, that would have filled an hour of your guys' show. But Clark Lee sees it, and everybody's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. It doesn't even hardly move the needle other than a few tweets. But yeah, that one jumped out. Other than that, I guess, just in general, sort of the personalities, I thought Sam Pittman really held court well today, talking about his jukebox and his hog statue. You just get the sense that not only Arkansas fans, but really sort of the industry at large and college football fans at large are eating out of the palm of Sam Pittman's hand. I mean, I was out visiting with him a couple weeks ago in Fayetteville for a piece. And after that story published, I not only heard from Arkansas fans that said they're rooting for Sam Pittman, but from Georgia fans, but from Tennessee fans. Sam Pittman, former assistant at Tennessee and Georgia. He's a guy that is resonating around the conference. And I think particularly for fans of like teams in the East, it's like, we don't have to worry about Arkansas that much. Like, people kind of like the guy. They're sort of behind him. They like seeing Arkansas do well. And I thought he only improved that image or further deepened that image today. I thought he was one of the more impressive and engaging speakers on the main stage. And then, I would say with Nick Saban, I really felt like when he was on the main stage, it tamped down this idea that sort of floated around a couple months ago. Is like, is Saban worried about the future of his dynasty in the NIL era? Is he thinking about retiring? I don't know. I mean, maybe he's still up and does that, but I didn't get any sense, from Saban being on that main stage that here's a guy who's got about 6 months left in his tenure and he's gonna ease into retirement. Like, I felt like this is someone who really likes his team. And I think Alabama's gonna come back hungry this year to try to reclaim what was taken from them.
Yes, we're on with Blake Toppmeyer, SEC columnist for USA Today. And kind of following up, you wrote an article and piece on Nick Saban. You think this may be his best team yet? He's on a rampage. Kind of take us through this article in Cliff Notes version and kind of give us your viewpoint.
Yeah, if you look at the course of Saban's Alabama tenure, some of his finest moments have been after he was served a dose of humility. Alabama lost 3 games in 2010, comes back and wins the next 2 national championships. 2019, Alabama loses to rival LSU. LSU wins the national championship. Alabama's relegated to the Citrus Bowl, which is not normal terrain for Alabama in the postseason. Comes back the next year with a historically great team in 2020, runs the table and wins the championship. So, just from a history sense and really from a roster sense, I think Alabama is poised to rebound this year. I mean, for all these narratives of, again, how is Alabama going to change or going to react in this NIL future? Are our teams going to rise up, funneled, powered by booster money? It's like, well, lo and behold, maybe that happens over time, but here we are sitting here in July before the season. Who's going to be preseason number 1? It's going to be Alabama. Who's going to be the favorite to win the national championship? It's Alabama. It's like, in some ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Like, Saban has been that prevailing force even as the sport continues to evolve. That doesn't mean that other programs maybe can't rise up a little bit in this NIL era, but I still think Alabama is very, very well positioned. And with this team in particular, I think it's more loaded than Alabama was certainly last season. And I really think last year was the small step back before we see another step forward. And I think Alabama is very deserving of its favorite status going into the season.
Well, Blake, let's stay with the coach, our coaches. What coach in the SEC has the most pressure this season? Is it a first-year coach or a second-year coach or a national championship coach?
Well, I guess you can look at that a number of ways, but in terms of hot seat pressure, I think it's Brian Harsin, the guy we're going to hear from tomorrow morning. That's always a pressure cooker job at Auburn. We know Harsin survived the kangaroo court of this winter, and I think he scored some points with his fan base for that, just folks that like seeing someone stand up to the man and survive. Maybe we're pleased to see that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that Auburn went 6-7 last year. It doesn't change the fact that it limped to the finish line. It doesn't change the fact that it lost a swath of players in the transfer portal and really hasn't adequately replaced that with incoming talent. And it doesn't change the fact that Brian Harsin endured a lot of shakeup on his coaching staff too. And on top of that, there's not been a ton of recruiting momentum, at least to the standard Auburn expects. So, really, I think the deck continues to stack against Brian Harsin, fairly or unfairly, and that schedule's mighty tough as well. So, again, you can look at this a number of different ways in terms of pressure, but just in terms of like hot seat pressure, I think it's Brian Harsin. If you move down to the next layer, I think there are a couple guys that really need to have nice seasons in year 3. I mean, Mike Leach in Mississippi State, they return a ton of starters on both sides of the ball. I think, year 3 is in a reasonable time, especially after we saw Ole Miss step up and make the Sugar Bowl last year. You know how it is in that state. Like, Mississippi State fans don't like trailing Ole Miss and vice versa. So I think, there is some level of pressure for Mississippi State to take a step forward. And I think Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz, another guy entering year 3, coming off of a disappointing season last year at Mizzou. And Drinkwitz finds himself in a situation that no coach wants to be in, and that is working for an athletic director who did not hire you. Missouri's had an AD change, and so the AD there is new. I think that's always a little uncomfortable situation, for a coach in Drinkwitz's situation. I think he's someone that, faces a little pressure to take a step forward here in his 3rd season.
Good stuff. We're on with Blake Toppmeyer, SEC columnist for USA Today.
Blake, are you stock up or stock down on Stetson Bennett?
I guess
or neutral stock.
Are you still hating on him, Blake?
I guess if we're like actually talking about this in stock market terms, like in investor terms,
yeah.
you should have sold Stetson Bennett in January. and that doesn't mean the guy stinks. So like actual stock market terms, like I should have sold my whole portfolio in December, right? Like and just locked it in a bank for 6 months. Where at least it wouldn't be losing money. So like in actual stock terms, I think that, if you're talking about like 52-week highs, we talk about 52-week highs and lows in the stock market. Stetson Bennett was trading at a 52-week high in mid-January. That's when you sell, right? You buy low, you sell high. You sell at the 52-week high. Is he going to get back to that point? I don't know that he is. It doesn't mean he's a bum quarterback. I think he was exactly what Georgia needed last year, and I think most of us, and I was in this camp briefly at one time, that were pounding the drum for JT Daniels, we were wrong. I think Stetson Bennett was the guy for that team last year, and he proved it. Does that mean he's one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league? I wouldn't go that far. I filled out my ballot for ranking top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC, and Stetson Bennett didn't find a spot in my top 5. Again, doesn't mean he's a bum. He's a national champion, but I do think there are more talented quarterbacks in this league, and I think last January will go down as his finest hour.
I expect a hat tip when that column gets written, just so you know. All right, so ballots had to be filled out, and people are starting to predict, you got to get your order of finish in for the SEC. Who's number 2 in the East? Who's number 2 in the West?
That's a good question. I love that you just skipped past number 1.
Yeah, I'm skipping past number, unless you have some crazy thing you want to tell us.
I don't. I have no hot take at the top of the league. Number 2 in the East. Number 2 in the East, I think I would go with Tennessee. I think you could
it plays well on this station.
Yeah, I think you could make a case for Kentucky, and here's the reason why. I think Kentucky will lose the head-to-head against Tennessee, but I think you could make the case that overall Kentucky has a better path to second in the East because of its schedule. Tennessee has Alabama, of course, as always. And also has to go on the road to LSU. Now, I know this isn't LSU's best team, but I think LSU is still going to be tough to beat on the road. So I think you can make a case for Kentucky. But I do like Tennessee in the head-to-head there. And so knowing that they would have a head-to-head tiebreaker, I give the Vols the edge in the East. In the West, boy, that's even tougher. You know what? All offseason, I've been pounding the dark horse drum for Arkansas, and I'm going to go down with the ship. You know, if I'm going to be wrong, I'm going to at least be consistent about it and say, yep, I was pounding the drum for this team all offseason, and I was wrong. So let's do it. Let's say Arkansas second in the West. They got a brutal schedule this year, but I really like KJ Jefferson. I think he's probably the most underrated quarterback in the SEC. They bring back both coordinators, who I think are really, really good. I think they've improved themselves in the transfer portal. Guys like Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma, the wide receiver, Drew Sanders, really good linebacker from Alabama. So, yeah, let's do it. I'm sticking with Arkansas as the SEC West dark horse to finish second.
There you go. Just putting it all out there. Blake Toppmeyer, our guest, covers the SEC for USA Today.
Well, Blake, I have to ask you, Notre Dame, what's the best fit for Notre Dame at this point in time? If they weren't independent, where would you go?
I think it's probably the Big Ten. I mean, I know the SEC, everybody would probably love to have them, right? I mean, the ACC's wanted them for Lord knows how long. I really can't see the SEC saying no if Notre Dame makes that phone call. But I think from a culture perspective, from a geographic perspective, although the Big Ten has thrown geography out the window, I still think it fits. Notre Dame best fits the footprint, the culture, the identity of the Big Ten. But I really think, you know, from everything we've seen and heard, I think Notre Dame would like to remain independent, which is what Notre Dame's preference has been for 100+ years, as long as they can make the finances work. And some reports, you know, that we're filtering out this week suggested that maybe they can make the finances work. I think their preference would be to stay independent. And I actually think that the SEC, would they love to have Notre Dame? Sure. I'm sure they would. But if they couldn't get Notre Dame, the SEC, I think, would really like to see Notre Dame stay independent. The last thing the SEC wants is Notre Dame to be strong-armed into the Big Ten. SEC doesn't want that. So I wrote last week, I actually think the SEC can be an ally for Notre Dame in protecting its independence, because the SEC doesn't want to see the Big Ten say, hey, we got to go into a conference, so we're going to join the Big Ten. The SEC doesn't want Notre Dame to do that. So I think when we talk about playoff formats, I think any playoff format that would punish Notre Dame for its independence and would put AQs, automatic qualifiers from conferences, above independence, put them on a higher foothold, I don't think the SEC is going to like that for multiple reasons. They don't want AQs, but also it works against Notre Dame. And I don't think the SEC wants anything that's going to encourage Notre Dame to look at the Big Ten seriously.
Well, does Texas, Oklahoma coming to the SEC top UCLA, USC to the Big Ten?
I think it does. I think USC belongs in that conversation. UCLA comes up short. I mean, if we were talking, you know, basketball, if we were talking softball, then sure, UCLA belongs in that conversation. But we're talking football, right? That's what drives the bus on all this. And so I think of that, you know, quartet, UCLA is the weak link. So I think you could look at Texas and USC, and you could, in good faith, I think, make an argument for either of those teams that one is the better ad than the other. If you're talking about holistic athletic department, it's hard to argue against Texas. They, you know, year over year have one of the best all-around athletic department performances in the country. But, you know, USC has the glitz and the glamour and the Pete Carroll dynasty, and we've seen what that program looks like when it's at its best, and it's pretty darn good. But okay, if that's a fair comparison, comparing Oklahoma, which is just an iconic brand, one of the sport's truly historically great programs, versus UCLA, there's no comparison there. So overall, especially when it comes to a football perspective, the SEC wins. We can get into this debate over like television markets and media markets and all that. I mean, that's a whole different debate, I think. But in terms of just like what you gain from an on-field perspective and what you gain from a brand perspective, yeah, I think the SEC wins this battle.
Blake, fantastic stuff. Lots of good stuff. People can go find it on your Twitter at @BToppmeyer, anywhere they consume the USA Today family of publications. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. When we come back, we got a giveaway, and we got this. A writer for Saturday Down South has made quite a prediction for Tennessee. I mean, like quite a prediction. You will want to hear this next.
Oh, who is this, Mickey?
This is Mean Machine. This is Van Halen and the Jackson 5. It's
I heard
Mean
the Jackson
Streets
5
and
part.
Dancing Machine.
Oh, Dancing Machine.
Boy, this is another good one. Lucas Panzica, what do you think?
I dig it. I like
I
it.
think I heard these songs when I was in my mom's belly.
Well, not these two mixed together, though. There were no mashups in those days.
Well, I was, there was a lot of, water going around on it.
This might be my favorite one. Mean Machine, Dancing Machine, and Mean Streets.
I love it, but I think the Bee Gees ACDC
Staying Alive and
that
Alive.
version was better.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, they're both great. That's like everything I like about everything. I
Mix a
like
lot.
giving stuff away too. Coheed and Cambria, we don't have a mashup of them, but we can do this for you. They're bringing a window of the Waking Mind tour with special guests Alkaline Trio and Mothica, Lucas's absolute favorites, to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium on Saturday, July 23rd. The Zone has your chance to win tickets thanks to Window Nation's ticket window. Be caller 5 now for your chance to go see those rascals. 615-737-1045. And now this, Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South was on with Feinbaum yesterday afternoon, and he was just dropping bombs about predictions about Tennessee. Check this out.
See, in the post-Phil Fulmer era against Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, it's 4-35. Not great. Not great. I think it's, like 15 or 16 in a row that they've lost against those three teams. Not good. I floated out this poll on Twitter of how many of those teams will they beat this year, and I think there was a total of 90% of them said 0 or 1 of those games that they will win this year. I think Tennessee's going to win 2 of those games this year. I think they're going to beat Florida. I think they're going to beat Georgia. They're not going to beat Bama. We're not going there. Okay. But do we really think that Georgia is going to get through a repeat season, 12-0 going into the SEC championship? Or could they be caught by a team that stretches the field the way that Tennessee does, who has an outside threat in Cedric Tillman, obviously a stud quarterback in Hendon Hooker, one of the best in the country, and Jalen Hyatt, a guy that they're really high on? Can that be the thing that takes advantage of a Georgia team that doesn't have that defensive line that's all-world, all-generation this year the same way that they did last year, put more pressure on that secondary? That's the formula.
That's the formula for them to win 2 of the big 3. So they're not going to beat Alabama. Georgia and Florida. He called them both. I was sitting there, and I thought, I'm going to rewind that and watch it again. I rewound it and watched it again. I thought, I'm going to tape this with my phone, by the way. That was courtesy of SEC Network.
One.
Yeah, and I said, I'm going to send this to Lucas Panzica because we should probably play this on the show tomorrow.
Man, Georgia, they're going to be playing them in Georgia. Alabama's at home. I think people think I'm crazy, but, I'm going to give my honest opinion. I think they're closer to having a better shot of winning those games than losing them. That sounds crazy. It's because of the up-tempo. Now, Georgia's team, they had so much domination on their defense. That game was over really in the second quarter. They just started waylaying people, and once they figured out what they needed to do, which was you get that guy, I got this guy, and you go chase that guy, and you hit him as hard as you can, and then you make him go to the sideline. Now, I don't know if they're going to have those guys, but I'm going to assume
that.
And I'm assuming that they still have some guys like that. I mean, because, it's Georgia. They got another guy that's been waiting in the wings or who was rotating, and now he gets to shine. I don't think they're going to have that dominant D front as he mentioned. And so that may give Tennessee a better shot of having a shot at competing with them for 4 quarters, because that's what it's about. It's not about, okay, can we beat them? Right. Can you compete with them? Because if you don't turn the ball over and you play solid against them, and probably to the heights of, you haven't played and you have depth without having some serious injuries, I think they can compete with them for 4 quarters. I really thought they had Alabama on the hot seat there in the fourth quarter, as I talked yesterday, and they had a legitimate shot. They was going back and forth. I thought Nick Saban his head was going to blow up because that corner stood there and wasn't ready to play on one of the plays, and they ran right by him and threw the ball. I thought, oh, my, man, I've never seen that out of Alabama team. So it showed me the pace that Heupel's offense was going, that there's nothing you can really do to practice against it. What can you actually do to prepare for it? One thing's about conditioning. One thing's about being lined up. Mm-hmm. One thing's about how they're, strategically attacking you based off how you're lining up. So I think they have a shot of in every game just because of those factors. And now it's their second year, not only the coaching staff, but the players. And you're getting the returning quarterback. And you're going to have skill guys. People want to play for that offense. If your defense, you get some pass rushers, shore up the secondary a little bit better, see how they play out. I think they got a shot. It may get, they're going to need some luck along the way. They're going to get a tip ball turnover or something that changes the momentum and that gives them the, make the game really even. I think it's possible.
I know we're short on time. Lucas is probably about to start waving by to us, but you mentioned, how do you simulate that? So we probably got 30 seconds. How would you simulate that in practice? Would you get your scout team and call 9 plays in a row and just say, go run them all as fast as you can? Is that what you'd do?
No, I would have 3 teams ready to run a play immediately after the ball is complete or incomplete or stopped and we blow the whistle, and you run back out there and the next play must be run in 10 seconds and you already know your play. You already looked at the board.
A whole different team of people.
Yes, a whole different team. That's the only way. And most, the only SEC teams are going to have that kind of depth and type of players that can really compete to do that. Yeah.
It's our coach. It's our director of content, Blaine Bishop. Time for us to ship out, though, for today. 3HL, they're still live. They're still in Atlanta. You don't want to miss it. They'll get you all up to date on SEC Media Days continuation next right here on The Zone.
Yeah. In the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.